my friend Dan, he's got a podcast, cause all comics need a podcast, and nobody had a podcast called The Art of Bombing. So Dan went out and bought a tape deck. Who knows why he bought a tape deck? Podcasts don't get played on tape decks, but Dan is from the 80s. So hey there, all you funny jerks, come talk to Dan about your work. Tell him all about your worst times. It's The Art of Bombing.
Hey, welcome to a brand new episode of the Art of Bombing podcast.
What?
I know. It's crazy. It's been a minute.
Who are you?
I'm the guy that forgot to hit record on this other little application, but there we got it. That's okay. We got back on, so it's all good.
That's good, man. Hey,
Yeah.
It's all right to be rusty this long out of it, but we're coming back
Right?
with a big one, though, right?
We are coming back with a big one. Before we get to that, hey, thanks for tuning in to the Art of Bombing Live. I'm your host, Dan Bublich Jr., and with me, as always, is our producer and co-host, Josh Shirley. How have you been?
Dude, I've been doing well. I've been busy. Been on the road a little bit. I was up in St. Joe recently, having a good time there. And I've been working on some content for this here show, man.
Yeah.
This is exciting.
It is exciting because isn't the show that St. Charles or St. where the place
Doesn't
you
matter.
just said, the place you just said that I didn't hear because I got distracted with comments. That place, didn't you filmed that, right? We're gonna do that was the show you filmed, right?
Dude, perfect segue. Next week, around this same time, 9:00 Central Time, on this show, we are going to watch what I would call a Sports Center condensed version of A Night of Comedy at Hazel's. I got a couple of camera angles. I got some great audio and 4 comics. It's just going to be a great time, and I look forward to seeing everybody.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, so to sum up what he's saying, we're having a watch party. We're having a watch party with previously recorded live stand-up comedy. You can tune in with me and Josh and watch some stand-up that he filmed for the show that he produced down in Kansas. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah, it's going to be great. It was so great to work with them and have somebody who was so willing to let us do that. We just want to go ahead and say thanks to Hazel's for that. We got a lot of great content, just like a triple treat for everybody. Not only talking about this amazing show that people are about to listen to and watch, but next week we have the watch party, which is going to be super fun. And then the week after that, we have a great comic named Luke Thayer, who I'm really excited about as well.
Yes, we've got lots of great, and we've started releasing some content on our YouTube page. So if you're not following, if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, you need to go do that now because we're going to be doing bomb drops where we're taking clips from these episodes and putting it up there. Hopefully, most of them will be the bombing stories, but we've got some other clips that we put up, like we just put up a clip with our previous guest, Erin Tracy. She was talking about not being taken serious as a female comedian. And as far as, she's talking about how a lot of times she shows up to a club and they're like, "Oh, are you somebody's wife?"
Yeah,
It's
right.
like, "No, I'm the headliner."
Oh, you guys got to get out there and check that out. She's on the poster. She's standing next to it. Okay, are you the guy's hot wife? Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Female comedians,
Definitely.
they have those? Yeah. It's pretty insane.
Yeah, it was a great little story. And at the same time, it's something that we should have awareness for. We need, that's not good behavior in comedy. That's got to change. You can't just, it's bad behavior to just think every woman that's in a comedy club is not there for comedy, that they're there for the quote unquote male headliner or whatever. That's the old way of thinking, and we got to change it. So go watch that. That's on our YouTube. It was great. And if you want to listen to the whole episode, that's available on all podcast applications. Wherever you find podcasts, you'll find The Art of Bombing. You'll find the episode with Erin Tracy. You'll find an episode with the late and great Louis Anderson. I mean, there's tons and tons and tons of great episodes out there. So go check that out, which brings me to another quick announcement about the show. we are planning on changing our release day to Thursdays to go along with these streams. So what that means is we're going to release the audio format, the audio version of the podcast on the Thursday following the live stream. So that means tonight's episode will be released on Thursday, March 17th, St. Patty's Day. Oh my goodness, it's St. Patty's Day. So we'll be releasing it on the following Thursday. So just so everybody's aware, we are switching our release days for the audio only. The live streams will still be on Tuesdays, so keep that in mind. We do have some comments coming in here. DuPont, thank you. Thanks for tuning in and watching. We also got Facebook user. Hi, Facebook user. You must be tuning in from the group. When you tune in from the Facebook group, it shows you as anonymous. But thank you for watching. We do appreciate it.
That's right. I like to think that
appreciate it.
Actually, somebody out there called Facebook user who's just conniving. It's like, I get Facebook to do whatever I need it to do.
Yeah, right. I'm Facebook user. I use Facebook to do my bidding. Oh man,
get a lot of free drinks bought for me.
What's that?
I was making yet another of the same joke that we just made.
I gotcha.
And, I think people are already tired.
Yeah, probably tired of our shenanigans too. But we have a great episode. Let's talk about our episode today, and then we'll do some quick promoting, and then we'll bring out our guest. Our guest is thanks to you. You helped put this one together. So why don't you talk about our guest that we have today?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Abbi and I go back a long time, almost 20 years. And, we have done some skits and stuff like that performing together. She and her husband have been in stand-up comedy for all of that time and really taught me how revered an art form it really should be. I mean, it's just one of the most difficult yet rewarding things that you can do. And they taught me that. I think the first time I ever performed stand-up comedy was as on a show that Abbi was working on. And Abbi has just, ever since then has just completely blown up. She's all over the place. She's on truTV for a while. She'll be talking more to us tonight about the work that she's doing on Hulu right now. She's been on Colbert, MTV, Comedy Central. I had like so many channels that I don't have. That this is gonna be a fun one. And not only that, but I mean, we're all about to learn how much of an awesome guest she is. I was filming something once for one of our friends, and I kind of stopped by and it's like, Abbi, can you say something into the camera for this person, please? And she made up a rap on the spot and just did it like it was ready to lay it down in the studio kind of stuff. She's just
would it be putting her on the spot if I try to get her to rap her bombing story?
Oh my gosh. Wow.
That'd probably be too much.
Yeah, probably so. We'll just have to see what happens. Even if she doesn't go into a rap, I think we're going to have a great time. So I can't wait.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm very excited for this. Yeah, like you said, lots of TV credits, lots of fun stuff there. It's funny you're talking about these channels. A lot of them you can get through streaming now, which is great. A lot of the truTV content you can get on HBO Max, which is cool. That's where I watch a lot of, because truTV actually puts out a lot of really good shows. I think they're underrated, but that's just my opinion. A lot of great comedy stuff on truTV. My HBO Max has saved me. I've got to watch a lot of the shows that I wouldn't otherwise get to see because I, too, don't have channels. What's cable? Does that exist anymore? We got a quick comment here. Oh, yes. Facebook user is the guy you will meet in Gillette on Friday. Yes, that's Darren. He's opening for me on Friday. Yeah, so let's real quick before we bring out our guest, I'm going to plug some stuff. I got a bunch of stuff coming up this weekend. Friday, I'm going to be at Legends Bar and Grill in Gillette, Wyoming. Saturday, I will be at Marty's Tap in Sioux City, Iowa. Let's see. On Sunday, I'll be at Big Canvas Theater in Omaha, Nebraska. And then Monday, I'm going to be at Whiskey Springs in Hamburg, Iowa. And if you're wondering where those places are, I don't know. I don't know either. I'm going to be doing a lot of driving.
But if you're there, go see the show.
Exactly. Well, I'm excited for the show in Gillette because that was the first show in 2021 that kind of kicked off my tour to get ready for my album. I headlined there last March, and it was kind of it was like one of my first shows back when things started opening back up. So it's exciting. I get to go back. I did a good enough job. They're bringing me back.
Dude, yeah,
So,
obviously.
You got anything coming up to promote?
Next time, let's do my announcements before yours, Dan, because you listed these great. Like, I'm in this theater. I'm in that theater. I lost track of where I'm going today. I'm at Boone's Barbecue in Bolivar, Missouri. And as soon as I find out where that is, I'm going to let everybody
you know what, though? You're at a barbecue place. I'm at a bar called Whiskey Springs. Who knows what that is?
Yeah.
Hopefully whiskey's flowing on a Monday, nonetheless.
Yeah, I'm kidding around. I'm actually looking forward to a short tour I'm going to do at the end of the month with a great buddy of mine, great headliner named Bryce Stanley, who works all over the Midwest. We're going to be in Bolivar, and we're going to be up in St. Joe. Coincidentally, different place in St. Joe. It's going to be a good time doing a little mini dirt road tour with him, and I'm looking forward to it. That'll
be fun. All right. Well, the last announcement, just make sure you're following the podcast wherever you get the podcast. Follow us on all the social media. We're at Art of Bombing Pod on all platforms. Make sure you check us out. You can go to our website, artofbombingpod.com, find all our social media there. I did just post that in the comments. So you got all that. You can check that out. And I think it's time. Let's do this. This is a little bit of a long intro for us, but we had to catch up. So we did. So without further ado, we are going to bring in our guest and welcome Abbi Crutchfield.
And now it's time for the stand-up soundbite.
Well, we put all our energy into like raising our kid, and I think we do a good job with that. It's just with each other, we just ran out of energy and creativity, and then it just got passive aggressive. Like, I'm not looking for you, okay? Start saying mean things. I'm not shaving for you. Well, I'm not waiting until you leave the bathroom before I pee in this shower. And he said mean things too. I have good news though. We're past that part, and he's starting to work out again. So I think he's cheating on me. Possibilities. Teach me your ways.
Hello, Abbi.
Hello. Where's my hair? My hair is disappearing. Dan, thanks for having me. I'm great.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. I'm excited to have you. I like that during our segment, you went and changed your background. I love it.
I did, yeah. And I didn't know you could do backgrounds on StreamYard, so I was gonna just blur my house, but then that panic of just like, oh my gosh, they're gonna see how I actually live. If I just remove this background in an instant, I think you would go, ooh.
Yeah, if I removed my background, it would be the same because I just moved into a place, and so I'm not unpacked.
Yeah. What are you gonna do?
My studio, the last couple of times that Josh and I got together, it was just boxes stacked on each other.
It's an Amazon packing facility in there.
Pretty much.
Plus, I wanted to match you guys, so I picked your background. But
I like it. It looks good.
Like my hair is gonna come and go. You're gonna be like, is she bald? Is she wearing a wig?
Well, for me, at least you have hair to disappear. Mine's been disappeared for a while.
By the way,
for quite some time.
I did not remember my condolences, although I think you look fabulous tonight.
Thank you.
I didn't remember the Josh's anecdote that I rapped for anything ever, although I'm not surprised because if anybody gives me the chance to rap, I do like to. I will say it's more for me than them. Like, it never rhymes. It just goes on and on.
You're just like, thank you for giving me this opportunity, and I'm gonna take it.
It's like Jeff Goldblum scatting. I'm just like, ooh, words, association, rhythms, and everybody's like, okay, can we go home now?
Oh, I love it. Well, don't
So
worry.
ask at your
I
own
won't
risk.
put you on the spot. I won't put you on the spot. Trying to rap a story about bombing might be pretty tough. That might be a new story about bombing.
Yeah, really. What's
Could-
worse, the bomb I'm doing now or the bomb I did then? You tell me to stop and I'll say when. Oh my gosh.
Oh, you're
Uh,
killing it already. Look at that.
I was trying. Yeah, I remember, and I don't know when we're going to dig into the bomb story, but I can tell you, I was trying to go from memory of the name of the college, and I started combing my emails to just look for the booking. And I was like, oh, could that be the name of the college? And then I went to cross reference on Instagram to check like a hashtag of when I've thanked a college for performing there. And I am so glad I did not say the name of this college because that would have been the wrong one. I was going to just totally throw a whole school under the bus and it would have been incorrect. So the school I will poo-poo. Luckily for them, I don't remember where I was.
Oh, that's funny.
But it's it's a performance for young people.
Yeah, that
That's
would have
the
been
story.
definitely bad if you threw the wrong school under the bus.
Or I mean, no one's ever going to even. I don't think anybody at any of these schools ever remembers they've ever seen me. But you never know.
They probably don't remember really seeing comedy at all, unless it's like, I don't know. Sometimes I've heard stories of people talk about shows they went to in college and
Yeah.
it either inspired them to do comedy or it was so bad. They're just like, yeah, it was.
I remember seeing both Godfrey and Tracy Morgan at my college, and Tracy walked an elderly gentleman from the front row who I didn't recognize him, but we all assumed he was a professor of some sort. He had white hair, and Tracy was not affected by it. He's like, go on and leave if you don't want to get into it. But it was just something about, I don't remember even the bit. It was just like a little too blue for this man. And so, yeah, it is hard not to remember the people you've seen at that time, especially because it's like your introduction to stand-up. You're not old enough to get into a club, so you have to see them on campus or in the local pizzerias or whatever. I saw Mike Birbiglia back then too. I think
Oh, wow.
and the very first comedian I ever saw, I was 11. My mom took me to see Sinbad. I'm from Indiana, so it was like on Butler campus. There's a performance theater there, I think called Clues. And yeah, it was great. That didn't make me want to be a comedian, but that was really a lasting impression of just like, I had never laughed so hard in my life. I felt like a grown up. And then, it was just a great time.
Oh yeah, that would be amazing. He'd be a fun one to see, especially for a first time, because Sinbad was great, and he says that
High
every
energy,
show he pretty much just improvs essentially. I mean,
I have heard that
says
he
that.
wings
That's
it.
what he
Yeah,
says.
or he doesn't stick with the script. And hey, if that's how you're more comfortable, then good. That's
and
like,
if you can pull it off, more power to you.
yeah. I feel like that is the opposite. I'm somewhere in between. I'm like, if I'm married to a script, then it's not fun because I'm not connecting with the audience. But if I'm like too not remembering my bits, I just pause way too long, and it's just kind of like, give me a second, guys. No, I'll get it. Something about ink. Nah, not ink, markers. And the people are just like, please tell the joke.
And
So,
then
yeah.
that's just when you break into rap with word association.
Why won't she tell us a joke right now? Man, I wish she wasn't a big stupid cow.
Oh, have you ever
gosh.
tried that? I feel like have you broke into like rap where you're doing commentary of what they're probably thinking of the situation? I bet you that would go over really well.
No. I mean, if I could do life over again, I would have seriously gone into and if it wasn't like laden with misogyny and the pitfalls, etc., I would have gone into rap because I really admire that skill, that art form. But I am so removed from it that doing it out loud always reminds me of how I'm not going to make it. It's like someone pretending to be an astronaut. Like they just start floating like, wow, I'll never make it to space. This is the closest I'm coming to being an astronaut. Anyway.
That would be me. I'd be the kid like, I'm an astronaut, pretending to float to
Look at
space.
me. Yeah. Like as if that's what they're doing all day instead of actually doing math and
In science and
yeah, keep collecting data. They're essentially
just
they're
like,
up there
I'm
with
an
a desk job.
astronaut.
Yeah. Someone throw a banana to me. Ow.
Look, I can do a cartwheel with no hands.
And you wanna know what's funny about that? Like, as exciting as space seems, when I was a kid, real astronauts came to my grade school and explained what it was like, and they had, like, I think a little slideshow on a screen, someone pulled down a screen and they could just flip through slides. And, one of the pictures was about the inside of the spaceship being very, very small and cramped and being disoriented. So, like, the doorways are just little circles that you could go through, and then the what am I trying to say? The orientation of the room is shifts at each time. And then some kids said, "Why is that? Like, why isn't everything just built the same way like a car?" And they were like, "Because in space there's no gravity to hold you down, so you just kind of get used to just flipping all around."
Oh
And to
man.
me as a kid, that reminded me of a fun house of like being stuck in one of those wheels, and I was just like, "Space is
No,
a
thank you.
nightmare." Yeah, a moving closet that makes you want to puke. I can't.
Oh, that's
Otherwise, I would be an astronaut.
a good like comparison of that. Cause yeah, you're right. That's like one of them fun houses.
And yeah,
But
well,
not very fun.
I got stuck in I didn't get stuck in one, but I as a kid, when I went through one of those barrel hallways the first time, I put my hands and feet on the wall just like any kid would do, but I didn't anticipate, like, the feeling of going upside down making me sick, and so I was just like, "This is terrible, get me out."
Have you
Anyway.
ever thrown up because of a an amusement park ride?
Yeah, no, I threw up on a, carousel, like, at a playground. I have bad motion sickness, I guess, so just, like, kids spinning me around on one of those non-mechanical,
Yep.
very manual items.
Oh,
Just
well, I
driving in a
mean,
car through a parking lot made me sick, so, yeah, I don't think I
yeah.
would do well on a roller coaster.
Yeah, me, I've never been a big, like, amusement park person. I went to Universal Studios, and even, like,
Cool.
the 3D, like, rides. Like, I remember going on the Simpsons attraction, as they call them, and I, like, about 1 minute in, I had to, like, just keep my eyes shut and just, like, hold there and just, like,
No.
breathe and concentrate on not getting
Oh,
sick
of
because
course,
of
of
the
course.
just the 3D and the up and the like, it was
It was
not
too
good.
much. Yeah,
Because I
how'd you
used to
like it?
get
I didn't see it at all.
yeah, I didn't watch it at all. I had to sit there with my eyes shut for, like, 15 minutes or, whatever it was, but and I
Right.
remember as a kid, like, certain video games where they had, like, big drops like that. In
Mhm.
fact, one of the Simpsons games, there was a Simpsons game where you drove, and it was the same
Mhm.
thing. You're, like, driving through the, like, towns, and there was, like, big steep drops on hills and stuff. Anytime I
Ooh.
would do one of them drops, it would just like, oh.
Suggestive. Well, I do remember Step by Step was a show like on ABC's like Friday night lineup for kids. TGIF, that's what they call it. Thank goodness it's Friday, or thank goodness it's funny. And
Yeah.
so the opening of Step by Step was being on a roller coaster, like the point of view of someone riding in one. So I used to get my face real close to the screen because that was living on the edge for me to like pretend to be on a roller coaster. I was like, I'm not getting in one of these in real life. So no, I have been on them. I just haven't been on too many that go upside down.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been on a roller coaster, and I don't
Wow.
think I need to change it,
Simpsons
if I'm being
ruined it for
honest.
you.
I'm not gonna try to change it, so
You
it's
know
all good.
yourself.
I've been on some rides, and that's enough. Oh, well, this is great. Have you been doing I know you're in New York. Have you done any shows here as of late?
You're in New York too? Yeah, I was just at West Side Comedy Club a night or two ago, and then I was on a virtual show this evening. So
Oh,
I was
nice.
everywhere,
Yeah, you were. How do
and
you like doing the virtual stuff? I mean, obviously, it's doesn't compare to live, but
it is not the same as live, but I got used to it, over 2 years. In
mhm.
fact, I got up more often doing virtual because there was no commute. So I was just trying to pack in as many as I could. I was like, "Does anybody want me?" I would say yes to every single one. Whereas on the live show, if it's oh my gosh, if it's in a certain part of town after a certain hour and the trains are just whack, I just have to like keep moving the date. I'm like, let me reschedule to another time, like if they get to a better season. Cause yeah, I don't know. New York is hard enough. What can I tell you? But virtual made it easy. I was like, yeah, I can be there anytime.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
for
here with you
sure.
guys at the hour that I would be eating cereal in bed watching Murder She Wrote. So this is nice.
Well, I'm glad that you paused Murder She Wrote and you put down your bowl of cereal to join us. Because
My
we're
pleasure.
excited to have you. We're excited to have you. Well, now this is a good transition. Let's talk about what this podcast is about. We love to hear stories about bad shows or
Mhm.
shows where you felt that you bombed for whatever the reason might be. So let's hear what your story
I
is.
love those stories too. I love them because they didn't happen to me. I will love when a comedian tells a time where they were humiliated, and I'm like, yes. But also, as a comic, we've all experienced it, and so it's just kind of like that relatable feeling of like, oh, wasn't it awful? And then glad we're still alive to tell the tale. I also love that the show is called The Art of Bombing, because as if it's like, look, that wasn't a mistake that just happened. I'm a master at my craft.
Exactly.
My
There's an
failures are
art to it.
handcrafted. So yeah. The story, I think the one first of all, let me tell you that if you have a habit of being hard on yourself and wanting things to go perfectly, comedy is gonna be a tough row to hoe because there's nothing perfect about any set. There's always something that is annoying about it. So like every set, sometimes when I get into like a perfectionist mode, every set feels like bombing in some way. If something goes wrong, like someone makes a stink face in the crowd. So let me just separate that right now so that I can remember that like there are certain times like they just sit with me where I'm just like, why did I say it that way? Why did I do that? And in this instance, the story will actually tell you is a time where it's the classic sense of bombing in that people did not enjoy what I was doing. Like I came to do what I did. The conditions weren't great, but it was really just one of those things where it's just like, we don't like it and we're going to show you we don't like it. Uh,
Oh.
that's different than just me being like, "Oh, my timing sucked," or "Oh, my jokes aren't as strong as they could be," whatever. That's not the same kind of bombing. Plus, at this stage in the game, bombing is not your jokes are road tested and you do it regularly enough. So even if you're not getting the laughs you want, you're still not like having flop sweat and freaking out on stage and bombing the way you did
Yeah,
year
yeah.
one of comedy. So anyway, I was performing at a college and it was broad daylight and outdoors. But there was a sound
Hmm.
system, which is always good. It was under a tent where the seniors were about to graduate. They were allowed to have alcohol. So I was thinking, this is cool. They'll be a little buzzed. They're celebrating. So I'm in a good mood. It's almost like a comedy show, except it's broad daylight and whatever. And I looked around. You always have to survey the space when you arrive. You're parking in a college and you've got like some time to kill. And there was no stage. It was just a tent. And I just thought like, it just looked like, a wedding reception. There weren't chairs or anything. It was just like, there were kids at tables and chairs. And then as night fell, it got super dark and there was no lights. So I just thought like, gosh, it was almost better when it was like bright outside to have performed. There was a DJ in a DJ booth, but they announced right before I went on, they were like, "Hey, everybody, before the comedian comes, just want to let you know we're gonna close down that bar." And the whole room, the whole tent goes, "Oh!" So it's
Oh
like
no.
now they're like, "But as soon as the comedian's done, we're gonna open that bar right up." So everybody's just like, "Okay, get her on, come on." And I just thought, "Oh, that sucks." If I could have had it my way, I would have said like, "Guys, get drinks as much as you want." So I felt like, okay, now it's gonna be like they're antsy and they're gonna hope that I'm good. I had their attention for the first few minutes. I was trying, and I know. Let me tell you this, college students who are listening, it's a really fun show to you guys if I make it about you, or if the comedian kind of like teases a person up front. Like kids are, I mean, at this age, you're so self-focused sometimes and when it comes to entertainment and you've never been in a club, so you don't know how to act, that it's just not interesting for you to hear about a comedian's life unless the things are like hitting exactly of something you've experienced before. And I've done enough colleges to just realize that. So you kind of have to like interact with the crowd a little bit to get them engaged again. Otherwise, they're just like going to look at their phone or start wandering around or heaven forbid talk during your set. So,
Or all of
um
the above.
yeah. So I'm trying to like identify the pockets of the room. I like, look at these kids back here. You guys look like, whoever. And then these kids up front look like library kids. And this, and that was going well. Everybody's like, yeah, she got us. But then I was like, okay, time for me to tell my jokes. And I told my jokes. And I don't know what happened. Maybe 5 minutes in, I just started losing them. And it was getting noisy. And I was just like, I was standing. Also, I was in front of the DJ booth. So, like I said, I'm on like eye level with the students, except for those who choose to sit. Some are standing in the back watching. But they're given 40% of attention span. Like they're not all like, oh, someone came to entertain us. They're just like, talking about life. And so I don't have everybody at once ever. It's just kind of like ocean of noise. Plus, like I can see the people in the front who are looking at me. And I never lost this group of 4 girls with glasses and like parted hair down the middle and straight. They were just so polite and stared at me and just like this. So that was my safety zone. If I really felt like uncomfortable, I could just look at them and they'd be right there plastered with smiles on their faces. But I remember one thing that started to go wrong was one girl was drunk and she wanted to talk about the guy next to her. And I tried to engage them like, what are you guys talking about? Can we all be a part of it? And, it was just like, no, tell your jokes, and I thought, fine, okay, fine. There's a guy in the back who had a little fedora, I think, that looked a lot like Jason Mraz. So I called him Jason Mraz. And at first that got like great laughs. And then I refer back to him again and at some point to try to like win the crowd back. And I just remember him going, yeah, Jason Mraz. Like he was way in the back, but I could still see his face go, I heard that already, like, and I just thought, man, this sucks. And then, and I just couldn't tell you how far I'm into it. But I do know that the woman who is my contact for having arrived is timing me. And she's like, you have to do at least 45 minutes. And so I'm just like, gosh, I'm burning through my material here. The laughs aren't coming. I feel awful. And then this guy stands up and he goes, maybe I should tell jokes. And I was like, no. There's like this rule of thumb. Comedians don't let non-comedians on stage. But he just started like moving closer to the stage. And then people started chanting his name. They're like, Chad. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so he gets on stage and I'm just, trying to engage him. And he does this like joke. I was like, so what are you up to tonight? What are you going to do after the show? And he's like, maybe get you back in my room. And the whole room was like, oh,
geez.
I was like, I said something super nerdy, but it was like a factoid I had just heard about sex trafficking. And I was like, do you know how many people are sex trafficked per hour? And he goes, no. Some weird, stupid stat. And I was like, it's 13. And then he's like, oh. And it was killed. There was no mood to kill, but it made things worse. And so I told him to go sit back down, but they like gave him a round of applause for his efforts. And I was just like, gosh, he's doing better than me. This is awful. And how much time do I have left? And I just felt like dry. It felt like pain, Dan. It felt like death.
Oh.
So yeah, I blacked out the rest of it. Somehow I finished my time. I think I went under by like a minute and got super nervous about that of like, gosh, were they really watching? Because I looked at my like phone, that I'm recording the audio and the time does not say you've done the minimum 45 minutes. Like it didn't say that, whatever it said. I was like, oh no, I hope she didn't notice. But that's the funny thing about like when somebody makes you do your time, but they also see that you're bombing. Like I came up to her and I was like, thanks for having me. And I was waiting for her to be like, you didn't do your time. And instead she just looked at me like, yeah. Then I leave and then they can hear the DJ like, okay, guys, let's get the music going again. Bars open, everybody have drinks. And they all went back to their lives and they forgot that ever happened. But I felt like old cold pea soup, just like not good.
Only in a world like that will comedy be forgotten. I wish some of the gigs that I did ended with the DJ getting on there and being like, all right, let's dance, bars back open. And then everybody just forgets what just happened.
But it's so humbling. Like, let's just forget that even happened, guys. Let's keep going, like, or just, he could have just said, anyway, and it's like, oh.
Didn't even want to address it. He was just like, let's party.
Yeah. There was no altercation. There was no booker saying, hey, I'm not going to pay you. That was not funny. Like I've heard really bad horror stories that are just demoralizing at the end. Although it doesn't get worse than like a young man propositioning you, or at least trying to like one up you by saying you're going to come back to my room and being like, oh, here's a fun stat. Here's a statistic, young man.
But it worked. It
Geez.
got him to stop. You totally
He was like, "What the
confused him.
Yeah, he was confused.
He's like, I don't even know what's happening anymore.
Honestly, that's how I got out of a fight in grade school. This girl's like, I'm gonna beat you up. And I was like, good. I'll see you out at recess. And then she came out. She was totally ready to fight me. And I can't even remember why. But I got up on this ledge that no other kid, I happen to know, no other kid knew how to get up there, because my friends would always say, how are you up there? And I was like, it's my secret. And it was like some kind of parkour move where I just could climb that high. And I'm up there, and she goes, I'm going to fight you. And I was like, good, because I'm going to fight you. And she goes, come on down here then. And I'm like, you come up here. And she goes, I can't get up there. And I'm like, well, too bad you can't fight me then, because if you could, like, I was so all talk. And she just gave me the same face as that kid at the show. She was just like, okay. I'm like, done it again. Old Golden Gloves. Undefeated.
Averted.
Still undefeated. That's what I should have told myself after that set in the college.
2 for 2, baby. 2 for 2.
Many have tried, none have won. So yeah, that's all. I just remember feeling awful. I guess as I recount the details, it sounds like a very boring time for everyone involved, including me, but it was just more like I came to make them laugh. And then when you try to tell them jokes and they don't want to hear it, or they're heckling you, or they come up on stage and say, I can do it better, or the person that's like, you better do your time, is sitting there watching you like inches away. Ugh, the whole thing was just like,
I know.
boo. I booed them.
Right? And that's most college gigs. I mean, because you don't know what you're going to get when you do a college. Like you said, you're outside during, in daylight. That's right there. That's 2 things that don't work for comedy: daylight and outside. You know what I mean? Like,
and then when nightfall comes and there's no lights and no one can see me, it's just like, what is even happening? Why can't I still hear her? I don't want to hear her anymore.
Yep, absolutely. I did a college gig in December, and that was yeah, I mean, it was like early
Did they think you were a
evening.
Professor?
Probably. I mean, I
They're
look
like,
like
this
a
man
professor.
has a beard.
Yeah, right. It's like, well, I joke. I'm like, if this isn't funny, it's a TED Talk. So
Exactly. You'll learn something, kids. Pay attention.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's the worst. Like when I started doing colleges, I was like, I felt like I was them, and they were not looking at me like I was part of their group anymore. But I'm like, I remember
that's when
what
you
this
know
was
you're
like.
old.
Yeah, but I wasn't. I was like, I don't know, probably 30. Maybe I was. Yeah, I don't think I did colleges until after 30. Maybe I was 30. But either way, when you're 30, you still feel like I was just in my 20s. Come on, guys. And they're
Yeah,
like,
right. I
no,
was just there. Like I just
we
left
call
a
you
minute
ma'am.
ago.
Yeah. Oh well.
Oh no, they called you ma'am?
No, I'm saying I'm one of you, and they're like, no, you're not. We have to call you ma'am. We don't call each other ma'am. Get out of here, ma'am.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Oh man. Well,
Oh,
that was a
well.
great story.
Thanks.
And definitely relatable too. I mean, because with colleges, you just never know what you're gonna get. And like you said, you have to do the time. That's one of the biggest things with comedy. A lot of people want to get into
prison.
stand-up. And I've seen that where, like, even at an open mic, or just a showcase, and they're not doing well, and they jump early. And it's like, well, that's not going to get you booked on anything. Because even if you're doing terrible, you need to do whatever you've been contracted to
I know,
do.
fight or flight. And there's nothing worse than when you're in the early stages and you're at a show and the host is just out of the room because you've done your 8 minutes that you know how to do, and then you're just like, I'm just left here on the stage. I feel like I'm naked now.
Yeah, right. And
And
that's
crowd work. Yeah, you're just like, hello. Now I'm someone completely different because my jokes are over.
yeah, that actually kind of happened to me on the very first open mic I ever did. Like, I ran out of material,
And you stayed on stage? That's so bold.
Yeah, and instead of just ending it where I should have, I was just like, and then one of my friends kind of heckled me, and we had some banter.
Yeah, that's
and
nice.
Yeah, but also it was a terrible dismount.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
should
the
have left
terrible
on a
dismount.
laugh as opposed to
But
fulfilling the time and making it super awkward at the end.
right. Well, oh yeah. Well, that's what we can tell ourselves in hindsight. In the moment, you did your best. Like I think the worst thing is if I'm in an open mic, like in those early days when you're doing mics and you have to support each other, or you feel like it's important to support each other. I could not stand when someone was like, "Well, I can't leave you on that. That should have gotten a laugh," and then they keep going, and I'm like, "It's a
Oh,
mic.
yep.
You're supposed to not get laughs. Just get off stage."
Yeah, you're trying to work your material out. You
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
don't need the laughs.
But
Get
they'd be
out of
like,
here.
"I can't go." I would pump the laughter. I'd be like, just so stop it. I cannot stand when like they just drag it out. Anyway, open micers, pay attention.
Yeah,
Do your
right?
time and then
Yeah.
get off.
Yep. Or if you don't have the time, you don't, if at an open mic, it's not as bad to cut out early.
Yeah. It really isn't. You get to go home early. Like it's a win-win for everybody.
Yep, yep. Fulfilling your time really only matters mostly when you're getting paid or it's a professional show.
Mhm. Mhm.
But at an open mic, you're probably fine splitting early. In fact, everybody will probably appreciate that.
Then you walk back to the table and you look at your notes and you're like, "Oh, I forgot my joke about pickles. I gotta get back up there." And you're like, "You're not getting back up there. You come back next week, buddy."
Can I just do one more?
I know. Yeah. That feeling. I just gotta get it out. No. Mm-mm.
Can I go back up at the end?
We've had enough. Yeah. Oh,
No,
open
these
mic.
people want to leave.
Right. The nature of the mic.
Yeah,
They're only
exactly.
tolerable for so long.
Yep, that's for sure. Now, I like to talk about the bumming of bombing, which is that dreadful feeling you get after you have a bad set or a bomb. How does that affect you, and how has that changed over the years?
Let me think about that. Well, I think that it's really about your attitude about it. Like if you understand what you're there to do, you really should not dwell on mistakes that you made. In fact, you don't even have to think of them as mistakes because it's an imperfect not the art form, but it's an imperfect like practice. Like it's supposed to have stuff about it that doesn't go wrong. Like, so I think there's this perspective of what you think it should look like. You think it should look like a Netflix special. Then you do it live and the sound is wrong or the layout of the room is off or someone drops a glass or somebody is too drunk and heckles you. And like there's always some imperfection to a live set. And that's what makes it beautiful. It's an organic creature. It moves. You're having a conversation with the audience. You are not reciting a speech. And so if you didn't, I think one tip I've learned through the years is go in with just one goal. Because if you start out trying to nail everything all the time, you're going to disappoint yourself. And then the more disappointed you get with each performance, your confidence, I'm going to steal my husband Luke's concept, but he calls it a confidence tank. Your confidence tank gets lower and lower. Or I have a 4-year-old and in her preschool, they teach you like how to fill up your bucket. You fill up other people's bucket by encouraging them. You dip in someone's bucket when you're discouraging them. So yeah, your bucket, your tank or whatever can get empty if you keep browbeating yourself about what you did wrong or you keep focusing on what didn't go right about a set. So bombing happens. It's supposed to happen. It's the only way you can learn. If you only ever got laughs, you would never tweak a joke. And so that when it does finally, I don't know, reach a different level of performance, like say you're doing it at Mike's and it's doing fine. You finally get on a booked show and you haven't changed this joke that you've been doing for a whole year and it doesn't do well. Then you have to be like, oh, what do I do? It's like a crisis of conscience. You're like, who am I? And the answer is like, if it's making you laugh, good, but tweak it as you go along. Like listen to your sets, record your sets, listen to if they got a laugh, or if you're really perceptive in the moment, remember the time that it didn't get a laugh so that when you start telling it again the next show, you go, that one doesn't get a laugh. Don't tell that one. Skip it. Do the next one on your set list.
Mm-hmm.
Or rewrite it. Like, why doesn't that get a laugh? Oh, that one never gets a laugh. Then that's your sign to rewrite it, not to just keep telling it over and over again and then keep getting disappointed in yourself when it doesn't get a laugh. Okay, so that just work on one thing. Like, I hope I have a good closer. I hope I open without fumbling with the mic. Or I hope I do good crowd work at some point in the middle, or I hope I tell this new bit. Just give yourself one little task. Then when you accomplish it, because it's just part of the job, you can be like, hey, I did what I came to do, which was that one little thing. Well, so I also took a big dump on stage. Who cares? And that's a metaphor, by the way. Never poop on stage. It's
Yeah,
rude.
yeah, right. Please
Someone
don't.
else has to clean it up. It's not nice. So anyway, these are things I've learned. Do I practice them all the time? No. When I'm feeling insecure or not confident about another area of my life, I then take it to, like, I have this very bad habit of judging my stand-up based on something that's totally unrelated.
Oh
So,
no.
I think it's just like, I don't know. I don't want to. I will bore you if I try to like understand it now in real time, because I haven't even thought about it this hard. But I just know that my confidence ebbs and flows with time, depending on what I'm going through with life. And so the one thing it does not ever need to affect is your actual act, because if you have jokes and you have this is like a muscle memory thing at this point. You have a comfort level on stage and you're there to entertain people. You're not there to be judged by them. They came out on purpose, or they want to see your show. You're no longer doing these like guerrilla comedy shows in coffee shops where it's like, okay, guys, close your laptops. We have a comedy show now. Usually you're at a comedy club. You know what I mean?
It's like, please close your laptops and silence your phones.
And nobody looks up from their laptop and you're like, okay, so anybody take the train here today? Yeah. So I'm clearly a master of run-on sentences. What am I trying to say? Oh, that I can still get in my head and let that impact, like, what did you call it? The bomb after the bomb? Like that.
The bumming of
browbeating?
bombing.
Yeah, the bumming of bombing. Like you just totally can get too low with the lows. I think Seinfeld has been quoted as saying, don't get too high with the highs and don't get too low with the lows. I kind of think like you should get high with the highs. You need to fill up your bucket
That's
as
true.
much as
You really
possible.
do.
Like, that was great, and everybody loves to see somebody who loves themselves. Like, if you just had a great time or you were totally behaved as if you were oblivious to a mistake that somebody else might have zeroed in on, people are like, wow, that person's really confident, or they're comfortable with themselves and they must be comfortable around me. And then that puts you at ease. So I don't think there's anything wrong with being happy when you do well. But maybe what Seinfeld meant by high with the highs is like, don't be like, oh, this is my big break now, because then what's left is just like the dip.
Because tomorrow you'll be grounded.
Yeah. If you keep an even keel. And I don't know if I saw this advice in an interview by him or if the book, I have this book by him called Is This Anything? And it's a pretty nice, insightful thing about the craft of stand-up. But he said recently, I remember hearing him say, like, is it funny? Then that's all that matters. And I will be like, was that a message? Did that resonate with the crowd? Did they even understand it? Did it disconnect? And it's just like, who cares? Like, was it clever enough? I will just like comb through my stuff and be like, that wasn't that witty, or that was fake. It didn't matter. Did it get a laugh? Good. Then move on. Like, you do not need to sit there and just like,
try to overdo the joke. Yeah, overkill.
Yeah.
Yep. And I really appreciate what you said too with setting goals, because I think that's important. A lot of people overlook setting, and not just setting goals, but setting achievable goals.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. Like, a lot of people will set goals, but they have to be achievable, and you have to have a plan to achieve those goals. And even down to, like you said, going to an open mic, whether it be, okay, I have this one new joke tonight, I'm going to tell this new joke, and I'm going to tell it all the way through, whether it does good or not. And if you go to an open mic and you do that joke and accomplish that, even if it doesn't go over well, you've accomplished a goal. And that's a win. And you need those little wins.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly what the whole art form is getting rid of all these little things that don't work, that come between you and connecting with the crowd. So like, one of my goals was stop rubbing your stomach. This is like very early on. To be comfortable, I would just like do a little circular massage on my belly
while you're on stage.
And not realize it until after it was over. And I watched the show, or I watched the set. I'd be like, oh no, I did that stomach thing again. So I know I've been in moments where I would like reach for my stomach and go, no. I would say no out loud and they wouldn't know what I was talking about. And then I go into my joke. But it's like,
those tics, they can be distracting.
Yeah, yeah, it's like I think people do it subconsciously. It's just comforting. You have like
Oh, absolutely.
sitting on a stool, touching the back wall. I mean, some comedians are professionals and they still do it. So it's like do whatever works for you. But if you feel like it's getting in the way of you being your best comedian self, then work on it and work on it one thing at a time so that you're not, geez, if you try to fix like 8 things at once, you're going to get none of them fixed and then you're going to be extra depleted.
Yep, you're gonna be extra bummed from the bombing.
Extra bummed from that bomb, man.
And we don't want that. Yeah, and then I like to ask because you'll have a joke that works all the time, and then like one time it won't, or you do any joke and it's just it you can tell that the joke's gonna bomb. What goes through your head when you tell a joke and it bombs?
Oh, I just think do not acknowledge that the joke didn't do well because I love to see comedians that are just they trust the silence. This is another phrase I'm sure you've heard many times. But they're comfortable with things not going well. They just kind of register like, okay, they didn't laugh at that. I got the next one locked and loaded. But if you're in your head and you're like really disappointed, it's hard for me not to show disappointment with the crowd. So I'll either say something antagonistic that I will then regret, like, oh, come on, they're here to enjoy it. And you're not their mom. Shut up, or I will be nervous and insecure and be like, that one sucked, right? And then it's like, well, then you've just undercut yourself and they no longer feel like you're in control or that they need to listen to your ideas because, maybe it's not that deep, but that's just where I go. So I always want to
Mhm.
just not acknowledge that it didn't get a laugh unless I can acknowledge it in a funny way. If I'm comfortable and I'm in the zone, I have definitely been able to ad lib about something not getting a laugh and it works fine. But you also don't want to like only have jokes that bomb and never rewrite them and then always have the savor. It's like that's not that's a style, but I don't think that's where you want to be. I think you want to have like a joke that you feel like clicks. You don't want to just have here's my set of bad jokes and here's all the lines I have after them for when they get their grown.
It's like if the savor is funnier than the joke, that's a problem.
Yeah, unless there's a new comic out there maybe that's resurfacing that is what they do. They purposely tell awful jokes and then they have these genius savers. I don't mind that. I mean, Gaffigan had that voice bit, the reaction bit that was kind of
Yep.
like people looked forward to hearing the reaction voice too, in addition to the joke. But they usually paired well with a good joke.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, that's well, and talking about that, you brought up the constantly, trying to figure out, how can you improve the joke, things like that. Do you
Mhm.
constantly try to evolve material? And, like, is that something you do? Because for me,
Yes.
I'm always tinkering with jokes, even if it gets a good laugh, like I'll let it evolve because I'm always trying to find like, well, maybe it fits better with this bit or, whatever, and move it around the set, change
Yeah.
the wording, so on and so forth.
Yeah, and I like to do I'm guilty of like changing the structure too much, I think. One, because it makes it a little bit more interesting to me, or two, if I have not rewritten the joke yet and I'm just like I got to couch it in here when I know I've already got them laughing. It's like no, just don't tell that joke that keeps bombing. It's like no, I'm going to tell it because I haven't had time to tweak it, but I'm going to tell it in this spot. And sometimes I throw the baby out with the bathwater. And by that I mean I will have bits that work and then I will just get bored with them and stop doing them. And instead of like, luckily I have a lot of it written down or saved in notes. So if I need to, I'm going to work towards an album this fall. So I want to, and it'll be my first. So I want to like take everything I've ever written, even if it's from 2005, even if it's about no, Thigh Master was much earlier than that. But like, I was going to say like, Atkins diet. One of my very first jokes was about the Atkins diet. Do people still do this? I'm not sure. Could you hear me when my headphones came off?
Oh, I can hear you.
Yeah, the
You
mic
can't
works
hear
fine,
me.
right? I just
Yeah,
couldn't
the
hear
mic's
you.
fine. You just wouldn't be able to hear me.
So anyway, yeah. So I don't want to constantly do that because then I feel like I run the risk of, even though my set's always updated and topical and seasonal and it will be like addressing the things I'm going through in my life, like if I don't tell the jokes about how I used to work in an office anymore, that was a good chunk and I just retired it because I'm like, I don't work in an office anymore. It's not going to make sense. People have seen me on TV already. And it's like, you can still update that to say, so I used to work in an office, and then tell those jokes, you know, like you can
Yep.
keep that in an act. But I would just be like, it's not relatable. Nobody wants it. And then forget it. So I have it written down, but I would have to like watch old versions, like old recordings, or listen to old recordings to hear how to tell that joke again. And it just doesn't serve me. It's like not a good plan. I don't recommend it to people. I think I do it. I don't know why I do it. ADD, perfectionism,
Well, I think
whatever
too,
you call
like
it.
it's easy to like get bored with because you want to feel fresh too. Like there's that aspect of it where it's
You do, but
even if
stand
you
up, yeah.
change, even if you change it up a little bit, it's still the same joke, and it's hard to like, it's still not fresh.
I know, but you have to get over that if you're going to do stand up. Like Gaffigan will tell us have a special, you know, but until it's the special, those are the same jokes he will tell for the year. Why do I keep mentioning Jim? You guys have heard of other comedians. Chris Rock will do the same thing. Wanda Sykes will do the same thing. And now let me
Every
think of somebody
comedian.
who's like under 50, who's like Taylor Momsen will do the same thing. And so I think just this is just something I'm working on as an artist, is kind of like getting over myself and knowing that if a joke is getting laughs, like back to the Seinfeld line, like you don't get rid of the thing that gets laughs. You hang on to it. And I haven't like completely destroyed it. I don't burn them in a fire and I can't go back to those jokes again. I can go back to them, but just the practice of doing a bit that I know works every single time and not being so precious about like, ugh, I'm tired of that one. Everybody always hears me tell that joke. It's like, usually no, this audience has never seen you before. Like, unless you're a household name, you are fresh to whoever you're meeting, you know, regardless of your
Yeah.
credits.
No,
So
absolutely.
yeah, it's always a chance to make a first impression. So why not do your best? Tell your best
Yep.
jokes.
And I think there's a lot of new comedians. I always feel like make that mistake where they think every time they go to an open mic, they have to write new material, which
Mhm.
that's good that you're writing, but you also have to polish material. Because
This
if
is
you
true.
do material every time you do comedy, new material every time you do comedy, it's not going to be proven material and it's never going to get good or developed.
Yes, and that's a safe place to be, because you can be like, well, I don't ever really know how bad I am or how good I am, because I just do, you know, fresh new stuff. And then if it gets a laugh, you feel validated. But if it doesn't get a laugh, you can be like, it's brand new. I just wrote it, you know. But like you're saying, yeah, you don't ever get to find out who you really are on stage, and it's hard to get your voice down if you keep throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. You know, you have to kind of like get into a groove of, this is what I like to talk about. This is this bit I keep working on. This is how I'm going to challenge myself to make it fresh, because I don't like when it's not fresh. And I'm my first year of comedy. I was at in Indianapolis. Was I the host? I think I was the host of a show, and it was my job to drive the headliner. And so I picked him up and I said, "Gosh, I wonder what I'm going to tell tonight." This is the second night, and he goes, "The same thing you told last night." And just the fact that the headliner was laughing at me like, "What do you think, dum dum?" I was just like, "Right. I know that." But he's like, "This is
I'm a
paid gig."
professional.
Yeah, he's like, "This is a paid gig. You're not gonna tell new jokes, are you?"
I
I was like, no, of course not. Of course not.
No. I was just razzing you. I just wanted to see what
Yeah.
your
But
reaction.
I was truly in that mindset of just like, I can't do the same thing I did last night. Nobody was going to see you. Nobody who sees you, even if it's the same crowd exactly, which it won't be, they will look forward to laughing again if they laughed the previous night. Like, you'll find, like, you ever do a show, it's like a double, you're doing the 8 o'clock and you're doing the 10 o'clock, and then there's someone staying over. You're like, oh, I better try to freshen it up for this guy. You don't have to freshen it up for that guy. Do that exact same act, and he will have the joy of getting to hear this new audience laugh at it, and he'll know it's coming and he'll anticipate it. That's how I am when I was a feature and I was watching headliners. I would be like, watch their set over and over again and learn something new each time. So yeah, don't be precious about that part.
Oh, yeah, absolutely agree with that. Now, good or bad, crush or bomb, how do you analyze your sets to get better?
Oh yeah. Mostly in the moment. I'm good at being present on stage. Like, my mind does not just go out the window and I'm just doing a script. I and I like to do eye contact and connect with the crowd. I memorize like the faces, and if I see them after the show, they're like, that was so great, and I know exactly where they were sitting. So I'm able to be present, and I think that is an asset for knowing when a joke is going to work and when it doesn't, and rewriting it on stage, I guess you would say. Not again. I just took my headphones again. And so, but I write down every set before I perform it. And then I go through the set list to try to commit it to memory on my commute to the gig, and so there's that version where I'll like say, oh no, something didn't get a laugh. If I feel like I've been doing a lot of sets in a row and been getting consistently not good laughs, I will do check marks by the ones that get laughs. Because I audio record every set and I never listen to the set all the way through. It is painful for me. And I wish I could get over
know
myself.
Exactly how you feel.
The best I will do with these audios is scroll to a time where I knew I got a laugh. I'll be like, it was somewhere in the middle of the set, and then I'll listen to that and I'll be like, good, like that's nice. But like, I think in the 15 years I've done stand up, I've listened to 2 sets all the way through, and I've just got like a billion audio recordings that I've not listened to. But so yeah, I audio record just in case I need to come back to something and find out what's working. And then I keep a set list in an app on my phone here, and it's the date. It looks like this. So it'll be like sorry about the green screen. So you've got like the date I performed, the name of the venue, and then if you click on it, it'll say like who produced it, the show, and the order of the jokes, so that if I come back to that same venue, I can say, what did I do here last time? Just in case club managers watching, or just in case, it's another all moms night themed show, it's like, well, then the same audience might reappear. So what did I tell? What have they heard? And what might be nice to spruce up or beef up? So that's kind of like if I'm coming back to the same place. And then if I'm working on something that I really want to tell, but that's the problem. A lot of my stuff is like stuff I just want to talk about. It's not stuff that really makes me laugh. And I would much rather like work on funny lines and how I'm funny off stage and just like write that down and then keep that attitude and bring it on stage. Like for me, it's a different process. It's more like it's on my mind to talk about rearing my kid right now. So I'm going to talk about this thing that was hard and this thing that was like potty training was hard. And it sucks. I have jokes about them and I think the jokes are good. But like if I'm coming to a crowd, like I just played a crowd of like 20 somethings and there are no parents in the crowd, I'm just like, look, guys, I get it.
This is not relatable.
This is mad boring. Yeah. But I am going to, I like to talk about this. This is my life, So there's just, I don't know. Did I answer your question? Yeah. There's a lot to it. I do write down like anytime if I'm riffing with a friend and we're on a walk and we start laughing and we say something and they're like, oh, that's good, I write it down immediately. I'm like, hang on, hold that thought. Like I keep it on my phone a lot. I used to have a pen and notebook paper, but that takes up way too much space in your house. And I went digital a decade ago. So yeah.
I'm still a pen and paper guy. I mean, I still use my phone too, but I actually have a notebook where I do the same thing you do on your phone, where I write my set list, I write the venue, how much time I'm doing. Like I keep track of a lot of that stuff, but I do it in pen and paper.
No, that's good. It's better for your memory, actually. Like when I'm memorizing lines for an actual like audition for on-camera work, I will write it down, write the line out. That was something I learned from some acting class, but it really does help me like commit it to memory. And even if I'm doing an audition and I'm waiting to be seen, I will like write it down in my hand in the air of just like, what is that word? The line is this, just so I can get it. And I probably should start doing that with my stand-up too, just so that I don't tell it the wrong way. I always hear it when I'm telling something the wrong way. Like I say the punchline first and I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, pretend you didn't hear that. And then I just say it all over again.
Let me hit the reset button here.
I'm actually in black brain eraser.
Yeah, right? Just beep. Wipe their minds. I really like what you said about if you go back to the same venue, looking to see what you did before. Because I was in the intro, I was talking about this show that I'm doing in Gillette, Wyoming here this week. and I was there a year ago. So I wrote my set list down. So I am gonna go
Perfect.
look at the set list to see what I did. Some of the material I will still do, but because it gets
Good.
a laugh, because I know
Yeah.
it'll be a different audience. But I have enough. I've developed more material since then that I
Right.
know that I can put some different stuff in there. So it's not going to be the completely same show. If
Yeah.
somebody was there last year, they're not going to get the same show that I put on last year.
Yeah, and that's a nice feeling for you as a comic, because it also, like, it's a visual of, like, I have been working, I have grown a little bit.
Mhm.
I another little memory, Mike Birbiglia would come back to school. I went to Georgetown, and I don't do a podcast without referencing that college because it's a point of pride. It's a rite of passage. No, I went to Georgetown, and so did Mike Birbiglia. He would come back and perform for the college students, and I saw him probably 3 years in a row, and I remember thinking, like, "Didn't he tell this joke last year?" The second year, and then the third year, "He definitely did this set last year." And that was my introduction to, yeah, that's what stand-up is. It is an act. You work on
Yep.
it, and you hone it, and so he had his Georgetown act. It wasn't the same thing he did, later on television on Comedy Central. It was all university-specific jokes, that inside jokes that these college kids would love. He was a master of his craft way back then. And so yeah, it was a good life lesson, and I always come back to that thought of, like, he didn't change it up. He didn't care what we thought.
Yeah.
He knew we
He's
were
one of
still
my
in
favorite
school.
comedians too.
Yeah, he gave me really good advice. I'm sure, like, I've shared it before, but your listeners, this is brand new for you guys. So he said, when I was just coming out of college and I was like, I want to do comedy for a living. He said, okay, write, and write some more. And then when you feel like you've written just about enough, write some more. It was just like, you
That's
cannot
great.
write enough. And he was such an example of that in those early years, of just, like, he was, like, prolific, just cranking special after special. I think he still is. He's always got
Yeah.
something going on.
Well, and I heard somewhere, I don't know, it was like, I don't know if it was an interview or somewhere, but he was talking about like a script, and he was talking about how like he did like 30 some revisions before he even thought it was worth like submitting. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you
And that's
write and
hard to
edit
do.
and revise, but man, 30 some revisions. Wow.
Yeah, just draft after draft after draft. Yeah, I know, and it's hard. It's hard, especially because, like, you love a piece of art and you're like, "This is my baby." If it's a script, you're like, "This is perfect. I wouldn't cut anything." And then it's like, "Oh, you've got to do this over and over and over again." And it gets
It's like,
refined. It's just like your stand-up set.
yep. Oh, absolutely. That's what I tell a lot of people too with stand up. You got to write, perform, edit, and repeat. You got to
Right.
keep doing
Because
that.
it's not just about the jokes. That's the other thing. I don't know if we've talked about this. It's about stage presence and confidence, and, like, conveying that. And it takes years to get rid of all the little psychological ticks that kind of shine through to the audience that you're not even thinking about, whether that's looking at your feet or glancing at your notes or saying, I have, just like a little sound effect you make while you're thinking of, like,
Yep.
it's like
I used to look down at the floor when I was thinking.
I still
That
do,
used to be
yeah,
my thing. I used
and
to
I
like
hate
look
that.
down. Yep.
Yeah. I still do it. I'm like, "Get off the floor. Look at these people in their face." Okay. I
And
still don't
somebody
see my
pointed
joke
it
in
out
your
to
eyes.
me.
Yeah, sometimes you don't even know. Yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea, and somebody pointed it out, and I was like, "Oh my god!" I started watching videos, and I saw it, and I was like, "Yep, I got to stop doing that."
You just write on your shoes, "Look up."
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
One foot says look, the other says
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. Gentle reminder.
I like it. All right. Well, this has been fun. We are gonna get kind of wrapped up. I still have a few more things. I like to go. We talk about the bad shows and all that, but I like to end on more positive stuff. So the first thing I have, I put together an Art of Bombing Get Pumped playlist, and it doesn't have to get you pumped for comedy, but do you have a song that you would like to add to our playlist that gets you pumped?
Yeah, it might already be on there. I remember when Lose Yourself came out by Eminem. That was definitely the one that I had to listen to. And, like, it's hard to find an Eminem song that isn't about murdering someone close to him.
Right? You're not wrong.
But the ones with Confident, there was, like, No Love by Lil Wayne and Eminem used to always get me going. And Rap God, I hesitate to add that to the list because I think it's got some homophobic remarks as usual. But But yeah, try No Love. If Lose Yourself is a little too dated, No Love by Lil Wayne and
I
Eminem, which is
think
also
Lose
old,
Yourself is
really
already
good.
on the playlist.
Perfect. Then add No Love because it's just about it's just about like nobody thought I could make it, but I'm gonna do it, and it flows so well, and it's just like so easy to rap
It's
music always gets me fun.
definitely a song that can get you pumped. That is for sure.
Rap is so funny to me because it's like whenever they've got new stuff, they're so proud of it. They're like, "This is new right here," and then comedians, like when we tell new jokes, we're like, "I'm sorry, guys, that was new." It's just like two polar ends of the spectrum.
It's so true.
We have a lot to learn.
We're like,
from
we're
rap artists.
sorry that we put you through this.
I don't know what I was thinking. Rappers are like, "This is that new stuff. You better pay attention."
New stuff. Oh, love it. What's been one of your favorite gigs that you've got to do so far in stand up?
Oh man, one I think it'll just go down in the history books for me was like 2 hours before performance time. My manager called and said, "There's a dropout at Radio City Music Hall. Do you want to do it? It's 20 minutes set." I'm like, "Easy." Radio City, very cool venue. And she goes, "You're opening for Aretha Franklin." And I was like, "Hubba, hubba, hubba." And so it was just like so nerve-wracking, but I didn't even have time to get nervous. I just did the most professional thing I could, which was like, "What's your set list?" Not that one. It's too new. Old stuff, good stuff, tight stuff. And is this 20 minutes? Add a 5-minute block at the end just in case you burn through your material. Like I was so like focused, laser focused. On the train, I was like floating on air. I got in there, I was taking pictures. I was like, I'm in Radio City Music Hall. Even on the subway station, I took a picture of like on your way to Radio City, for the tourists. And I was like, that's me. I'm going there. So yeah. And then I did the sound check and they were like, I was so nervous to have to do my material for the sound check because it was one guy in the audience, but I started the bit and he goes, "Okay, great. We can hear you." And I was like, whew, I don't have to like do the act
That
now.
would have been very awkward, yes, to have to do your host set for one guy.
Yeah, but I had to do it. I was just like, this is Radio City
Yep.
Music Hall. I'm not gonna mess around. And then the night, the time of the show, what's his name? Al Sharpton, who is a good friend of hers, I believe, got on stage. He was in the audience. He got on stage. Oh, wait, sorry. I'm telling the story wrong, but I could see him in the audience. And I was like, I can't believe I'm performing for somebody I've seen before on TV. And so the beauty, though, is that it went well. I got to watch her concert for free after, which was so amazing to me. Did not get to meet her. Did not even share the same floor as her. She is on a different floor than the talent that opens for her. And so I was not like in her vicinity except when I watched her as an audience member. But then on the way home, somebody on the train, I was still like on cloud 9 and someone was like, did you open for Aretha Franklin tonight? Were you at Radio City? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, you were great. And I was like, that's all I needed to hear. Like
That's awesome.
I already loved it. And then you liked it too. And that's even better. So yeah, that whole thing top to bottom, I have no complaints about that whole night. It was such a wonderful experience.
That's amazing. Well, that's awesome. All right, I've got one more thing we're going to do, which is called Pick a Number. Before we do that, though, just people that are watching, we've got a couple people watching. After we do the Pick a Number, Josh will be joining us, and we will do a quick Q&A. So if you have questions, now is the time to put them in the comments. And then after we do the Pick a Number segment, we'll get to those questions. So if you got a question, now's the time to ask. So without further ado, how Pick a Number works is you're going to pick a number between 1 and 20, and then I'm going to ask you the corresponding question. It may or may not be comedy related.
Ooh, interesting. Gotta go with number 8.
Number 8. What's the most useless talent you have?
Useless talent? Oh my gosh. I kind of want to, I'm the only thing that comes to mind, it's not talent, so I'm going to have to think about that. But my first thing is, if your question was, what is your favorite invention ever made?
You're just like, I'm going to change the question.
That is also quite underwhelming. I would say it is the shoehorn. I get thrilled every time I use a shoehorn, and it is the most simple piece of metal. And I'm just like, my foot glides in every time. This person was a genius, whoever made it. All right, so now, what is it? My worst hidden talent?
Most useless talent.
Not
Not worse, but useless. So
I don't know if you can call this a talent, but this is something I discovered as a child that I thought was a gift. And I can still do it to this day. And it is to mimic the sound again, this is my interpretation of the sound of a hurricane alarm in Indianapolis, where I'm from. So it's kind of this high pitched thing with this like low pitched rumble. So it goes like this. It's a lot like that. At least 7-year-old me thought so, and I haven't let it go since.
I would say that qualifies as a useless talent, unless the horn breaks down and they need you.
Or it's just an inaccurate, boring thing a kid likes to do. I guess it's that.
It could be that too, but we'll go with useless talent. I think
it's
that
also
makes it
nowhere near like a real hurricane alarm is more like, but it also has that sound in the background. So I don't know. I'm just like,
well, I like the fact that you said that a hurricane alarm in Indiana.
Instead of
I know
tornado.
What you meant, though,
You're
I'm
right.
From the Midwest.
Science. Oh no, science class is haunting me. Have I been saying hurricane all these years?
Yeah, that's probably it's probably not doing the sound that's getting you the funny looks. It's that you're referring to it as a hurricane alarm in Indiana.
I thought that this was some kind of lead into a silly joke that we were going to tell. Like, it sounds like nothing because we don't get those.
Oh my gosh. If you knew the number of times that's happened to me where I will say something like factually incorrect, and that's the thing that people run with. I remember I told this joke that I just read in a joke book to my friend's dad. First of all, I'm 10 years old, but I wanted to entertain him, and he's in the kitchen making everybody green eggs and ham of all things. He's such a fun dad. So I was like, he's going to love this. And I was like, it was some bit about a bear and salmon, but I kept calling it salmon because I had just read it in a book. And I was like, and the salmon this, and then the salmon said that. And the salmon at the end, instead of laughing at the punchline, he goes, "Are you trying to say salmon?" And I just was like, yeah, that's right. It's a fish. I've heard of that. Like, I just didn't register that those two things were connected. Anyway, that's very me. Hurricanes. What can you do?
I love it. That was great. That was great. Well,
tornado warning.
Yeah, this was so much fun. Thank you again for doing this. Now,
Thanks
like I
for
said,
having
if
me.
anybody's got some questions, we will take some questions for a little bit, and then we're going to get out of here.
The question is, does she know what a hurricane is?
Yeah, so that's the first one. And we got a couple that came in here. Okay, so first one's just an easy one. Abby, you mentioned earlier that you're using an app to keep track of shows, notes, recordings. Do you mind sharing what app that is?
Oh yeah, that's Evernote, and I have used it for years, and I don't even know if there's a better one out there. I'm just so, let me see if you guys can see this. I'm so obsessed with like the visuals. I just love how tidy it is. Anyway, I don't know if you can see that. But you get to pick a little icon that goes with your folder. And I've got Just Met. I have a folder called Just Met, and I keep the list of names of people I've met, where I met them, and when I met them, so that when I see them again, because in entertainment you always do, you can see it. But then you have to hope that they don't see your Just Met list, because it'll be like, "Why'd you say I look like Fred Flintstone?" I'm like, "You don't look at this. This is not for you. This is for my memory." Anyway, I like Evernote, but I'll be honest, I don't think I've ever used it to its full capacity. Like, I don't think I've ever utilized it for what it can do, and I'm sure other apps exist that are probably more streamlined for comedy, but I don't know.
Evernote for me. I've heard of Evernote. I've heard it's a pretty good it's a pretty popular app. We do have some questions coming in the comments too. I see you already got one up there. How many states have you performed in?
I haven't kept track, but I know that when I toured with 3 women that are friends of mine, we started in 2012 and we went all the way through 2017. So every year we would tour for a block of months or a block of days, like 10 days at a time. They have the answer to this. I think we did 43 states. I could be wrong, but I think we did. Like, we were so close to almost getting 50, but obviously it's like, can't reach Hawaii. But I've been in Maine. We didn't tour in Maine as a group, but I've been up there. We even went to Toronto together. So we have just been in a car all over. We did like a whole West Coast tour from like LA to Seattle. And we did East Coast. We did Texas. So we didn't do like, you're going to Wyoming. We didn't do up there yet. Is that?
Yeah, I'm going to Wyoming.
West? Is that? I don't know geography very well.
No, it would be considered Midwest.
Breadbasket.
maybe?
Okay, well, I'm from Indiana, so
Well,
I've done
I
like
mean,
Indiana and
maybe it's Wyoming is kind of like a weird spot because it's just it could almost be Southwest, it could almost
oh,
be just West, could
nice.
be Midwest, could be, because it's, right, it's like below, it's right above Colorado, it's like right next to Utah, below Montana. It's in a
Cool.
weird spot.
I can't.
It's
I know
it's
I've been
neat.
to Colorado, but I don't think I've performed in Colorado. So like Colorado, Montana, Utah, never been. Like to go to Utah because there's dry bar out there. I want to do a dry bar special at some point. But Wyoming, no. I'm just like listing the states I haven't been in now. But that's like I've been in a lot. I've performed in a lot of them. I don't know. What are you
Well,
gonna do?
and wanting to do a dry bar, that's a good lead into this next question, because the
Mhm.
next question is, Abby, are your shows clean or blue?
My shows are very clean, but they're not. But they're not corny. They're just they don't have swear words, and I don't talk about my sex life. Although I've had stuff, I think, like content that would not work for a church. I've had to
Mhm.
perform for churches before. And so I don't know. I would call it general audiences. That's how I kind of rate my material.
Yeah.
It's
Do
not squeaky
you
clean, but it's also like I'm just not talking about scandalous things.
do you feel like that clean comedy has almost like a, I can't think of the word I want to use. It's not the right word, but like an indication. I can't say it. Of being corny, I guess. Yeah, we'll just go to. Do you feel like clean comedy gets associated with being corny?
No, I think not necessarily. No, I think clean comedy should be associated with like TV appearances because
Mhm.
everything you've ever seen on TV that's not streaming, like network television, is usually clean. Late night spots with someone's doing. Now, there are places that if they ask for clean, they don't want you to talk about controversial topics like race, and those are racist venues. Don't perform there. And so I feel like you just there everybody's gauge of like what their sensibilities are changes with clean. So some people, like I said, like I perform at churches where they're like, we want it's clean. So you can't say, I don't say damn anyway, but like there, what's something very mild? You can't say butthole. That's
Yeah,
dirty.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And
yep.
so there's that version. And I feel like I have Christian family members. I get that, and they're in the Midwest. So I get like the aesthetic is we want something that's like, I don't know. I don't mean to put it down because it's like you want something where a kid could walk into the room and you don't have to be uncomfortable because the content is not something that's like beyond their scope or going to make them ask you uncomfortable questions. So I think Christian comedy is nice in that respect, but like I just feel like it brushes up too close to like don't say anything offensive, don't say anything political. It's like you can have clean comedy that's political. You can have clean comedy that is irreverent, and you can have clean comedy that talks about racial inequality and it can still be clean. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So some people,
Absolutely, absolutely.
you really just have to get a gauge especially if you're getting paid, ask them what it is you cannot say specifically. Like if you're performing at a hospital and they say, please don't talk about death, don't talk about death, even if it is a clean joke. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Right.
No, absolutely. Do you have any other questions, Josh, that came in through the?
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier that that we're in a situation. Both you guys talked about it where we're kind of we can tell that we're going to run out of material before we do all of our time. We're ahead of pace at a certain time of the show. The person asks, like, what do you do about that when you're in that situation? What are some things for comics to keep in mind?
Honestly, oh, go ahead, Dan. You want to
I
answer
was
that
just
one?
gonna say, slow down.
If you can, yeah, if you can slow
Try to
down.
slow down.
I have filled it with questions. Like I have strayed from the material. Like I've seen like, oh no, I'm coming at the end of my stuff and I don't have anything after that. So let me just talk to the crowd, and I will fill the time by engaging. Where are you from? Anybody celebrating anything? And it's a little weird because it's like, didn't the host do this? Or the host should have done this already. But um it fills time to get a little call and response. It can keep you grounded. You can do word association from it. Like he's a dentist, and then you can think of like your dentist bit or whatever. So I'd say, yeah, one thing that has always helped me is to just stop doing the jokes on the page and dive into the crowd. And then you can always, if that's not working, you can always come back to the jokes. But it is so uncomfortable. Then there's like actually finishing ahead of time and being like, oh no, what else? So
Yeah.
ideally you would search your brain for like, well, I used to do a bit about pets. Let me see if I can remember that one. Okay, I got 2 dogs at home and this is their, and and I've been able to like fill up the last whatever with a big chunk, the last 5 minutes or the last 3 minutes if I run early with a different closer that I used to do, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. To add to that, what you guys are saying, I'd say just knowing your material really well and how it times can build onto that point that Abby made about, we dive into the crowd. Now I can do some crowd work. I see that ate up 2 or 3 minutes, and now I got 15 left, which is the same amount of time as the rest of the material, and now I can go. So
Right.
you can kind of combine those things, I've found as well.
Well, another trick is to overwrite or to overplan.
Yeah.
Like if you're doing say you're doing a 10-minute set, have 15 minutes worth of material and have that extra 5 minutes just be in case, where if you're not getting the laughs, or the applause breaks, and you burn through your material quicker, well, then you have that extra 5 minutes. You could start kind of going into that too.
Yep, absolutely. Especially if you're like, oh man, I'm feeling nervous tonight. I might just talk a mile a minute. Then it's like, then you better buffer it with a few extra jokes.
Yep.
But lately, like if it's a set in New York, it's 10 minutes long, and you don't get enough time to say everything you wanted to say. So I always write like, if you run out of time, don't do this chunk. Like I'll make a little note, like do not do this because you already know how it does. Do this new thing.
Yeah. That's great stuff, guys. That's all the questions that we got tonight.
Thanks,
Well,
guys.
perfect. Yeah, I think, we're going to wrap up. Thank you so much, Abby, for being on the podcast. Where can people go to find you?
You can find me at rapstar.com. Twitter. Oh, it's right there. Instagram and Twitter, Curly Comedy. That I talk regularly with people there. If you want to engage with me directly, that is the quickest way to do it. Quicker than calling me on my phone, because I will be like, I will block a call or like hang up on a call because I'm in the middle of a tweet. So meet me there on Twitter or on Instagram.
I love it.
And I also post about my shows like through flyers or in my Instagram stories. You'll hear about where you can see me live in New York City. I don't have plans to travel except I'm going to Connecticut. I'll do some tri-state area stuff, but West Coast or Montana, I don't have plans to see you yet. So hopefully I will be on your television and you can see me that way. And in the meantime, just find me online and I'll update you on where you can see my jokes.
Perfect. Thanks again.
Yeah, great job, guys. I don't know. Do you need my encouragement? I enjoyed myself.
You did a great job.
You were a great guest. You're a great guest.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. All right. Well, that was an amazing episode. Abby was fantastic. That was a great conversation.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I learned quite a bit. I had to take some notes from that. I really appreciated the, keeping track of your set lists, and so you can go back and reference that. Also, the talking about setting goals. I think that's very important.
Yeah, and it sounds like she uses a lot of her recordings. She obviously made the point she doesn't listen to them all the way through, which most of us can relate to. But it sounds like she keeps such good records that if she's working on a particular bit, she can see where she did that bit in each recording, find that, and hone the joke with a lot more data points on the one joke in order to make it work, which I thought was cool. She made the comment as well that she, thinks about comedy as a craft that you get better at by getting rid of things, and makes the point that it's not only about wordsmithing, but also, hey, I got to get rid of this tick, this physical thing. That I thought you guys elaborated on that really well. It was fun, man. Just going to be a great episode for.
Absolutely. Well, for those of you that have been watching all the way through, we do thank you for tuning in. We are going to wrap things up. You got anything else you need to talk about before we get out of here?
Just how great a show that was, man. That's all. I just
All right.
still thinking about it. It's fun.
Yeah, well, and make sure you come check out our watch party next week. Follow us on all the social media platforms. Make sure, another thing that helps this podcast is if you share our content. If you see a post on Facebook, Twitter, retweet us. Share the Facebook post. Tell a friend about our podcast. Leave us a 5-star rating and maybe leave us a nice review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to the podcast. We would really appreciate that. And we haven't talked a lot about it on the podcast, but we have posted a little bit on our social media. But if you want to contact us, you can now do that through voice message. That's right. You can go to podinbox.com/artofbombingpod, which I do have that in the comments now. You can leave us a voice message. Now, when you get to the page, it'll say, hey, support the show, give us some money. That's just a thing they do. Don't worry about that. That's just a thing that's on the site. What we want are the messages. So if you just scroll past that, there's a little mic icon. You press that mic icon and you can leave us a voice message. So maybe you want to do questions for an upcoming guest. You could leave a question there. We'll play the audio on the podcast. Maybe you have a story of a time that you bombed that you want to share with us. We might play that on a future episode. Or maybe you just want to say hi. Either way, go check that out. It's podinbox.com/artofbombingpod. Leave us a voice message. That would be so cool. So I think that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We do have, credits. This is a Blitz Entertainment and Dead and Mellow production. It's hosted, produced by me, Dan Bublitz Jr., and my cohort, Josh Shirley. Nobody Had a Podcast Called The Art of Bombing was written and performed by my good friend, John Holt. The stand-up soundbite bumper was provided by Joe Nicola Music. All other music and audio was royalty-free or used with permission. Visit us at artofbombingpod.com. Follow us on all social media at artofbombingpod. And thanks for watching. Have a great night, everybody.
Night.